shocking, a child which died. It's very, very shocking. Now, at this point of time, what is the solace? Some people, they take, when they are in difficulty, they are trying to find solace in so many different things, but nothing can give peace to anybody except for the transcendental instructions of the Lord, from the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. This is where we need to take shelter. We need to train ourselves to take shelter of Gita and Bhagavatam and the holy name. So that is why our whole program is molded in such a way that by hearing the transcendental instructions, we develop, we take up to the practice of Krishna consciousness very seriously. But for that seriousness to happen, we need to develop detachment as well. So, and the power of devotional service in itself is, it gradually helps us to detach ourselves from the material things, and also it by the positive engagement of developing attachment to the lotus feet of Krishna and his devotees, we develop detachment. So now we can see, that's why Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, when he's giving instruction, he's pointing out how to, when the section comes in the 6th chapter of controlling the mind, and Arjuna is pointing out that it's very difficult, Krishna, for me to control the mind. The mind is faster than the wind, he says. Then Krishna says, Krishna doesn't just, touch Arjuna with his hand and then do some magic or something. He says that, Asamshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam. Then he says, how does the verse go? Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. So abhyasa, you practice, Arjuna. You practice this path of yoga. So for us, it's the path of bhakti yoga. You practice, and simultaneously we develop detachment. No, that's why we have, it's not that we just, we are not just sentimental, we just sing. Of course, definitely just singing Hare Krishna is a tremendous purification. Along with that, why Prabhupada had the program of Shravanam, why we have the program of hearing Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. We get the transcendental knowledge. We are trained to see things in right perspective. We need to know who is God, who are we, what is our relationship with God, what is the nature of this material world, how things are temporary in this material world. All these things we need to learn. Then we will be able to see things in proper perspective. And ultimately, we need to invoke the mercy of the Lord. Without the mercy of the Lord, nothing works. We may have all the knowledge, theoretical knowledge you may have. To get realized knowledge, we have to engage in the service of the Lord. With full faith, we have to chant the holy name of the Lord. We need to honor only prasadam. We should avoid sense gratificatory activities. So all these things are so important. But the very nature of the material world, by the influence or by the force of the time, we tend to forget. That's how the material world works. So regularly we hear, regularly we associate with devotees, then we are in the fire of Krishna consciousness. So when we are in the fire of Krishna consciousness, we are very safe. Otherwise, our mind can come up with millions of ideas how to not to surrender to Krishna. And who knows how many lifetimes you have wasted. So many lifetimes you have wasted. So in yesterday's verse, in Stavapre Prabhu gave class, I was just thinking of another point also. That here Vasudeva and Nanda Maharaj, their experience is that it's the greatest fortune to meet intimate friends. But then again in the outside world, we see so many people, they are trying to write many poetries. They write so many articles in the Facebook, in some essays. They are meeting with some legends and all those things. But it's all just foolishness, just waste of time. If that has not got any touch with Atma Tattvam, it's useless, because it's all your glorification, it's all mundane, it's all gone with the wind. So many people have come and then gone, all great personalities in the material world. You can see right from tennis stars, cricket stars, politicians, great kings. What happened to all those people? Where they have gone? So many essays were written, so many glorifications are there, so many songs are sung. It's all just mere waste of time. So we learn from Bhagavatam that by the force of time, everything will be taken. So only a devotee is not affected by the force of time. How is that? He also becomes old. Ayuhu harati vaipungsan udyan astan chayanyashav tasyarte yakshano nita uttama shloka varte. Because a devotee is always engaged in the service of the Lord. He is always glorifying the Lord. So the rising and the setting of the sun does not influence him. That means what? He knows he is not this body. He is a spirit soul. He's eternal servant of Krishna. He has this knowledge, and he knows that there is an eternal connection I have with the Lord. I'm always a servant of the Lord. I will always want to engage in His service. Mama janmani janmani ishvare bhavatad bhakti rahitu ki tvai. This is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us. So we just want, we are aspiring only to be engaged in the service of the Lord. So we were just doing the evening Tamil Gita classes. We are just doing the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is explaining about the various qualities, all good qualities, all the good qualities. Who is the source of all the good qualities? Krishna says, it's coming from me. I am the source of all the good qualities. So he says that fearlessness, how one can get fearlessness? Abhayam. A devotee is fearless, whereas on the other hand, all others who have not taken shelter of Krishna, they are very fearful. That's the very nature of this material world. The moment we start identifying with our body and the bodily needs, we become fearful. So Krishna says in the Gita, Prabhupada specifically points out in the purport that because a devotee very clearly knows what is his destination. Prabhupada points out that because devotee knows that after leaving this body, I will go back home, back to Godhead. So he is not fearful about anything that is happening in the material. Apparently there will be many fearful situations in this world. But a devotee is not carried away by such things because he knows that everything is as the, just now we read Kapila's instruction that how Krishna is controlling everything. Everything is acting under the control of time, which is under the supervision of the Lord. So Krishna is, so a devotee is aware of this and he very strongly tries to get hold of Krishna's instruction and his pure devotees, and he goes on performing his activities in spite of reversals that happens in his life. So that is the point. So here in the Chitraketu section, it's the same similar verse in a different context is explained. O king, as small particles of sand sometimes come together and are sometimes separated due to the force of the waves, the living entities who have accepted material bodies sometimes come together and are sometimes separated by the force of time. So this is another verse. So then he says that, again, he a little bit elaborates on that same point. He says, when seeds are sown in the ground, they sometimes grow into plants and sometimes do not. Sometimes the ground is not fertile and the sowing of the seeds is unproductive. Similarly, sometimes a prospective father, being impelled by the potency of the Supreme Lord, can beget a child, but sometimes conception does not take place. Therefore, one should not lament over the artificial relationship of parenthood, which is ultimately controlled by the Supreme Lord. So this is again another thing. The material world, everything, people, there is a sense gratification. They glorify each other. They expect what is in store for me. That's how everything is seen in this material world. Recently there was one of my relatives that sent me an article glorifying how a person who came up in the corporate ladder and achieved a great position, and he owes whatever that he did, he owes everything to his mother. And then this person who has written glorifying the mother, that eternally we will be together, I will always be with you, you will always be with me, all these kinds of mundane glorifications. But this plain fact, actually, if he really wants to be a well-wisher to his mother, unless either the mother should introduce the son to Krishna or the son should introduce the mother to Krishna, if that doesn't happen, then both of them are in Maya, that's all. That's the whole point. So because what? You are going to again be born in this material world, again you are going to forget Krishna, again you are going to just engage in eating, sleeping, mating, defending. This is what you are going to happen. So this transcendental knowledge is very much required. So here very clearly Narada Muni is pointing out that so this is not going to help. And again, this might appear like a simple point, but it again makes us think. The next verse, he points out, O king, both you and we, your advisors, wives and ministers, as well as everything moving and not moving throughout the entire cosmos at this time are in a temporary situation. Before our birth, this situation did not exist, and after our death, it will exist no longer. Therefore, our situation now is temporary, although it is not false. This is a very thoughtful point. Sometimes we can just peacefully sit and think, what am I doing in my life? So when we think about it, then Krishna consciousness makes a lot of sense. So we will know that I should not waste time. I should take every opportunity to serve Krishna and his devotees. Because what else is there in this material world? So that's the point. So that's what exactly here. Um, Chitraketu Maharaj is being instructed by Narada Muni. Again in the fourth canto, there is a very amazing instruction. My dear Lord, your absolute authority cannot be directly experienced, but one can guess by seeing the activities of the world that everything is being destroyed in due course of time. The force of time is very strong and everything is being destroyed by something else, just as one animal is being eaten by another animal. Time scatters everything exactly as the wind scatters clouds in the sky. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 24, verse 65. Now I'm just going back to the first canto. I have very interesting situation wherein Dhritarashtra was very much attached. All is after the Mahabharata war is over, everyone died. Now Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, they were under the custody of Yudhishthira Maharaj. But Yudhishthira was such a great king. You know, he was called Ajata Shatru, he never had any enemies, and also he never saw Dhritarashtra as an enemy, and he was a great well-wisher. And when you read Bhagavatam, you will know how much concerned he was. Such a spotless soul. And now, you sadhus, who are the real sadhus? The sadhus are one who are real well-wishers of all the conditioned souls. They, with the transcendental knowledge, they cut the binding knots of material attachments. So Vidura saw how Dhritarashtra was very much attached. He still is not thinking about what is it that is going to give him eternal benefit in his life. So Vidura had to do something. So you can see that section of the Bhagavatam. He spoke heavy words, really chastises Dhritarashtra like anything. So unless we get this chastisement, we cannot come out from the slumber of Maya. When we are in dreamy state, somebody has to really shake us. Then we will awake from the dreamy state. So that's what Vidura did with Dhritarashtra. So he says, again, very profound instructions he gives. He says, Evam griheshu saktanam pramattanam tad ihaya atyakramad avijnata kala parama dustaraha. So he says, insurmountable eternal time imperceptibly overcomes those who are too much attached to family affairs and are always engrossed in their thought. Again, he gives this advice that he tells Dhritarashtra, come on, you have spent all along, right from day one, you are always thinking about I, me, mine. But now you saw, by the influence of time, all your 100 sons are gone. Now you wake up. So then he says, this frightful situation cannot be remedied by any person in this material world. My Lord, it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as eternal time that has approached us all. So very nice. He says that pratikriya na yasyeha kutaschit karhichit prabhu. So you cannot find remedy. Kutaschit karhichit means it not by any means, not by anyone. No one can give a solution. You may have different strategies to find happiness, but sorry sir, you cannot. So he says, Sa esha bhagavan kala sarvesham na samagataha. So it is only by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. You know, when the Supreme Lord has approaches us time, so better take shelter of the Supreme Lord and purify your existence. So again, he gives a importance. He says that whoever is under the influence of the Supreme Kala must surrender his most dear life, and what to speak of other things such as wealth, honor, children, land, and home. Oh, so what is very dear to us? Our own life. One day we have to give that up. We have to give up this body because we think that we are this body. So then he says, Pitri Bhratri Suhrit Putra Hataste Vigatam Vayam Atmacha Jaraya Grasta Parageham Upasase. Your father, brother, well-wishers and sons are all dead and passed away. So you yourself have expanded the major portion of your life. Your body is now overtaken by invalidity and you're living in the home of another. So he's really shaking him up. Come on, what are you doing? Now it's time. You have to now take up to Krishna consciousness seriously. And there are so many verses, one after the other, he is explaining the temporary nature of this material world and how he's being impacted by that. Now, this is one thing. Another thing is that there is another aspect also. We can see here that in this verse that Nanda Maharaj and Vasudev, they are completely inspired by each other's meeting. and they don't want to leave each other. So this also we can see this impact of meeting real personalities, or the sadhus. When some sadhu comes intervene in the life of a person, when you get association of him, that creates a great impact in one's life. So many people were purified by the association of Srila Prabhupada, and also his devotees. In one of the memories, His Holiness Indradyumna Maharaj is narrating his incident, that how he came in touch with Krishna consciousness. He got a lift from he happened to give a lift to some devotees, and then there are four devotees in the very early days of ISKCON. You may be aware, for those who have read the Leelamrita, Sudama Maharaj, Brahmananda Swami, then few more. I forgot two more devotees. Yeah, Vishnu Jan Maharaj, and who else? There was one more. So they were all for some time they were a little bit under the order of Prabhupada. They were out of ISKCON. So they literally left, and then they were just going out, and then they were preaching, meeting people. They literally, wherever they get an opportunity, they stayed there. They were staying, and then they were meeting. So that time when they want to go from one place to another place, they were asking for sometimes they used to hitchhiking. They say they ask for lift, and then so like that. So once the Indradyumna Maharaj, in his before coming to Krishna consciousness, he gave lift to some devotees. So they happened to. It's a long story. Just to give an insight. Somehow or other, they happened to stay in their place, in their apartments. So they gave a house that they stayed there. So they were doing straight preaching. They were. Vishnujan Maharaj was in saffron dress, and then he was having danda. So Indradyumna Maharaj was very curious. So he saw that they were all shaven headed, they were tilak, and then they were waking up early in the morning. They were chanting Hare Krishna. They were offering incense, and all this whole process of Krishna consciousness. They were practicing. So he became Indradyumna Maharaj and his wife. Before he and his wife, they became very inquisitive, and they were trying to serve the devotees. And the devotees were right early asking them, get us some flowers, get some ingredients for cooking and like that. So they were providing. And then in the memories, he says, Indradyumna Maharaj, he says that, I never used to, when somebody gives me instruction, I never used to follow, but somehow I was captivated by these devotees. So whatever they asked, I was responding. So he got them flowers and like that. So then he was getting, in the association, they were also giving them transcendental knowledge. They were explaining about what is Bhagavad Gita, who is Krishna, the transcendental signs of Krishna consciousness. So 3 days they gave their association. They were together. And then the fourth day they had to leave. So they just left a note. So they had one silver spoon that they were using for offering to the deities, and I'm not sure if that was used by Prabhupada. So they just left it as a prasadam to him. And then so Indradyumna Maharaj, while narrating that incident, he quotes today's verse actually in that. So today's verse says Naikatra Priya Sangvasaha. So is that somehow or other, by great fortune, who are they, from where they came, I don't know. Somehow or other we happened to meet them, and they left. So when they left, it was a very, very painful. It was very difficult. And they never said, because they were a little bit expelled. They never said, where is this? It was in Detroit that happened. But they never said that. They just came, had some association, and then they left. And just that association made them more inquisitive, and they were trying to look for devotees. And further, they came in touch with ISKCON, and they joined, and like that. So the association of devotees is also very powerful. And when we meet devotees, actually every one of us have this experience. Devotees are very pure. They chant Krishna's name. They're in their deeds, in their words, in their actions. They're very pure. And then anybody who is sincere seeker, he comes, he likes to meet devotees, like to ask, render service. So what is the connecting factor? Krishna is the connecting factor. Krishna is binding us. So Krishna's holy name, Krishna's instructions, the various activities about Krishna, it's very purifying. And when a devotee is very honest, and then he acts as a transparent via media, then he is transmitting Krishna to others. So then that relationship is very binding and very powerful. And when we all have this experience, when we associate with devotees, it's not only physical proximity. When they go out of physical proximity, we feel separation. But we all have to do our duty in Krishna consciousness. As we say, Prabhu Datta Desh. Everybody has to go to a different place. We have to go and then do our duty, preaching Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada said that if you follow the instructions, whatever the instructions I have given, I'm there in my instructions. So we associate with our guru and the entire parampara by following their instructions. So it's not only physical proximity. Yes, so that also we can remember. By the waves of time, um, we may be separated, but this Krishna consciousness is eternal. So our relationship with our guru, our relationship with the devotees, it's eternal. That's never going to end up. So we will be connected by the process of Krishna consciousness. So on one hand, we have to learn that by the powerful influence of time, we'll be separated. So we should not be completely bewildered by the um, activities of this material world. Yet, as a householders or whatever ashramas we are in, we have got a responsibility. We cannot be irresponsible, throw away our responsibilities and do whatever that we need to do. But the most important responsibility that we have, the as paro dharmo, that we should never forget. That's what the Bhagavatam is instructing us. We can see there are so many Mahajanas. They were all family people, but what is the key point that we learned? That they were all Krishna conscious. So that's the whole point. So everybody, the ashramas are designed in such a way that so somebody has to be in family life, and in the family life, how one has to take responsibility, yet be Krishna conscious and engage the family members, children, relatives in Krishna consciousness. So that's what here Bhagavatam is teaching us. And yes, one other instructions when it comes to influence of time, we see that there is in the Ramayana another incident. It came to my mind that Lord Ram after Vali died, so Lord Ram, he gives very profound instructions to Tara. So he speaks about all the right from all the basics. He says that now Vali is dead. What is Vali's destination? He speaks about how the body is temporary, the relationships are temporary. So now you have to be you have a responsibility. You have to take care of your son. Angada was there. So then Ram gives so many in that section of Ramayana. Also, you can see so many instructions he gives as the supreme personality of Godhead, who comes to enlighten us to by the transcendental instructions, help us to come out of the illusion of the material energy. It's very so that's why we have to. This Krishna consciousness is a very lively and very happily performed process. So the more we associate, the more we serve, the more we engage in glorifying the Lord by His name, form, and His various activities, the more we'll be absorbed and more will become free from illusion. Otherwise, again, by the influence of time, we will be carried away by material modes. We should never think that no, now I have spent a lot of time in Krishna consciousness. Now I cannot be attracted by women. I cannot be attracted by money. I cannot be attracted by fame. The moment we think like this, we are already in Maya. We are already in soup. We are already in deep soup. So always, as our Acharya says, so we should remain as humble servants of our spiritual master and devotees, and we should never think that I am done. Now it's time for me to retire. Our own Srila Prabhupada, he said that when one devotee said that Prabhupada, I did a lot of service, I want to retire. Prabhupada said, you may retire, but I have a lot of things to do. That means this preaching mission, so much activities we have meant to perform, so many activities in the Krishna consciousness movement. So that's the mood of Srila Prabhupada, and we should try to imbibe that mood, and whatever way possible, we should try to, from our capacity, we should try to enrich ourselves in Krishna consciousness and also share Krishna consciousness to others. You see, such transcendental knowledge we are deriving from Bhagavatam. So many people, they do not know, and we can see in front of our own eyes, they're suffering. People are suffering. They're having depressions. They're having great difficulties. So it's our great responsibility to share this knowledge with others and help them to take up Krishna consciousness and be happy. So as we discussed in the previous class, yes, so again, we remind ourselves that this opportunity, Sri Krishna Janmashtami, it's a great opportunity. So we have to be very enthusiastic. We should try to help others, try to bring as many people as possible. And those people who have come, you may be tired, whatever the difficulty we have, let's be enthusiastic, try to give a book, try to introduce them to this holy name, and help people to take up Krishna consciousness, and let them also enter into the great ocean of this Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, this ever expanding Krishna conscious bliss. So we should give chance to people. In that way, we will be able to please Prabhupada and our previous acharyas. So I'll just stop here. If you have any questions or comments or any realizations, welcome. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.